Situated right on the border between India and Myanmar, the state of Manipur was once defined by its vibrant culture and deep, misty valleys. Today, however, those very same idyllic valleys are deeply scarred by the burned, smoking remains of entire residential neighborhoods. In a matter of months, severe ethnic violence has claimed well over 250 lives and displaced more than 60,000 citizens. To understand how a peaceful region descended into a protracted civil conflict, we have to examine how its geography splits its people into two parallel worlds. This map illustrates the physical divide. The illuminated section is the central Imphal Valley. It accounts for only 10% of the state's total landmass, yet this small basin holds 53% of the state's population. They are predominantly members of the Hindu Meitei community. Surrounding them are the highly rugged, densely forested hill districts, which cover the remaining 90% of the state. These expansive hills are home to 47% of the population, made up largely of the mostly Christian Kuki-Zo tribal communities. A narrow valley holds the majority of the population, while a minority group controls the vast territories that surround it. This geographic disparity formed a fragile demographic balance, highly vulnerable to external pressure. That pressure began building across the border. In 2021, a military coup overthrew the government in neighboring Myanmar. Fleeing the junta, thousands of Chin refugees crossed the international border into Manipur. The Chin share close ethnic ties with the Kukis. Meitei groups and the state government claimed this sudden influx of illegal immigration was actively altering the local demographic balance. In response, the state government, led by the chief minister, initiated an aggressive eviction drive against alleged encroachments in protected hill forests. Simultaneously, they launched a localized war on drugs, deploying uniformed personnel to slash and burn widespread poppy farming operations throughout the hill districts. The Kuki-Zo tribes argued these actions were political weapons, calculated attempts to label them as smugglers and drive them off their ancestral lands. Long before any physical violence erupted, the state was already primed by mutual distrust, shifting borders, and aggressive land policies. On April 14, 2023, the Manipur High Court issued a specific order to the state government. The court instructed the government to consider granting constitutional scheduled tribe status to the majority Meitei community. The hill tribes immediately objected. If the Meiteis gained scheduled tribe status, the Kuki-Zo feared they would lose their exclusive constitutional rights to hill lands and see their quotas for government jobs heavily diluted. On May 3rd, tribal student unions organized a tribal solidarity march in protest. The demonstrations erupted into violence near the geographic borders dividing the valley and the hills. Within hours, retaliatory attacks and mass arson rapidly spread inward and outward across the state. The situation escalated beyond police control when mobs broke into state armories, looting thousands of automatic weapons and heavily arming local civilian militias. A single dispute over legal classifications broke decades of coexistence in a single night. In the years since the initial outbreak, the violence has altered the state's governance and infrastructure. The prolonged breakdown of law and order forced major political shifts, leading to the resignation of the chief minister, the imposition of direct federal rule in 2025, and eventually a new state government in 2026. The physical landscape is now defined by a strict militarized buffer zone guarded by federal troops, keeping the Meitei Valley completely separated from the Kuki Hills. Crossing this physical line is deadly. The quiet is routinely broken by modern militia tactics, including localized bomb blasts, rocket fire, and aerial drone attacks. The total collapse of physical security forced a restructuring of the entire state, turning once fluid communities into heavily fortified ethno-states. The massive structural damage extends deeply into the region's entire cultural foundations. In cycles of brutal revenge, communities have completely destroyed over 4,700 homes, 400 churches, and 130 temples. This leaves over 60,000 displaced people capped on the floors of crowded, temporary relief camps with no clear timeline for when they might return. Stopping the violence is one thing. Rebuilding trust where rigid physical borders have turned neighbors into absolute enemies will take generations.